So today, we're going to talk about something that's more important than ever, building a digital rulebook to keep you safe online. And why now? Well, because governments are really struggling to figure out how to police social media. And that means the number one person in charge of protecting you online is you. So let's get into it. First, just look at these numbers, 307 to 173. That was the actual vote in the UK Parliament against banning social media for kids under 16. Now, this isn't just some boring political headline. It's a huge signal that at the end of the day, when it comes to staying safe online, we're pretty much on our own. Okay, so here's our game plan for today. We're going to start by looking at why that ban didn't pass and what the real challenge is online. Then we're going to get super practical and build a rulebook for your photos, your words, how to deal with threats, and maybe most importantly, how to build your digital reputation for the future. All right, first up, why should you even care about this vote, especially if you're not in the UK? Well, because it's a perfect example of how governments all over the world are playing catch up with the internet. And that means the responsibility for safety lands right back on our shoulders. You know, this whole vote wasn't so simple. On one hand, you had people saying a ban is totally necessary to protect teens from things like cyberbullying and those super addictive app designs. But then, on the other side, critics were worried that a ban would be almost impossible to enforce and might just push teens onto shadier, less regulated corners of the internet. It's a really tough problem with no easy answers. So all of this really points to the bigger picture. A ban, or any single law, is just a tiny piece of this giant puzzle. The real challenge goes so much deeper. Here's the core of it, right? Social media platforms are literally designed to keep you scrolling for as long as possible. Why? Because the more time you spend on the app, the more ads they can show you. And that's how they make their money. So there's this built-in conflict between what's good for you and what's good for their bottom line. Look, in a perfect world, these platforms would put people before profit. But until that day comes, your first and best line of defense is you. And that's why having your own set of rules, your own digital rulebook, is absolutely crucial. Okay, enough of the big picture stuff. Let's get practical. We're going to start with rules for your photos. The most important thing to remember is this. The moment you hit send on a picture, you have completely lost control of it. So our first and maybe most important rule is what I call the school test. It's simple. Never, ever send a photo you wouldn't be comfortable with the entire school seeing. Because even if you trust the person you're sending it to, things go wrong, messages can be screenshotted, accounts get hacked, phones get lost, and yeah, relationships end. The second that image leaves your device, it's not really yours anymore. All right, rule number 2. You have got to learn to spot manipulation. If anyone, and I mean anyone, is pressuring you for a photo with lines like, "If you trusted me, you'd send it," or the classic, "Everyone does it," that is a massive red flag. That's not a request. It's emotional blackmail. And the only right move is to end that conversation, period. Next up, let's talk about your words. It's so easy to think of texting and DMs as just a private chat, but the hard reality is that everything you type creates a permanent, searchable digital footprint. Rule number 3 might sound a little extreme, but trust me on this. You need to assume that every single message you send could one day be read aloud in a courtroom or in your principal's office. Screenshots of texts and DMs are used as evidence all the time. The bottom line is, if you wouldn't want a judge to read it, just don't type it. Okay, rule number 4, you have to watch out for the app switch. This is a classic tactic. It goes like this. Someone hits you up on a public platform like Instagram or TikTok, and then almost immediately they push to move the chat to a private app like Snapchat or WhatsApp. Why? To get you away from any prying eyes, any moderation. This is a huge red flag used by scammers and predators, so be incredibly cautious. And rule number 5 has to do with group chats. It is so easy to get swept up when a group starts piling on someone. But you have to remember, even sending one mean comment or a nasty meme makes you part of a digital mob. And legally, sending repeated harmful messages can actually be considered harassment. That is not a label you ever want attached to your name. This next section is something I truly hope you never have to use, but you absolutely have to be prepared for it. We're going to talk about how to handle online threats. Knowing exactly what to do when things get scary is one of the most powerful tools you have. The best defense is always a good offense, right? So rule number 6 is all about prevention. It boils down to 2 simple things: be skeptical and be private. First, just assume that people online might not be who they say they are. Fake profiles are everywhere. And second, guard your personal information like it's gold. Your school, your class schedule, where you hang out, all those little details can be pieced together to create a pretty clear picture of your life. Now, for the absolute worst case scenario, blackmail, which is often called sextortion. If this ever happens to you, the most important thing is not to panic. Here is rule number 7, a clear 3-step plan. 1, stop all communication immediately. Block them. Do not engage. 2, preserve the evidence. Screenshot everything, the threats, the profile, everything. And 3, report the account to the platform, and you absolutely must tell a trusted adult. And please, hear me on this, never ever pay them. It will not solve the problem. And this next one, rule number 8, is for anyone out there who is scared to speak up. A trusted adult, a parent, a teacher, a school counselor, their number one priority is helping you, not blaming you. I know it can feel terrifying to tell someone what's happening, but getting help early can stop a really bad situation from turning into a total disaster. Okay, this brings us to our final and really important section, building your digital reputation. Everything we've talked about isn't just about staying safe in the moment. It's about consciously and carefully building the person you want the world to see, both online and off. So here it is, the final rule, number 9. Your digital reputation is not something you think about later. It is being built right now with every single post you make, every comment you leave, and every photo you're tagged in. College admissions officers, future employers, they are looking. A dumb joke or an angry comment you made today can easily be found years from now. So I'm going to leave you with this final thought. The internet creates a permanent, unblinking record of your actions. It has a perfect memory. The only question left is, what kind of story do you want your record to tell about you?